There's a few reasons. The first thing that comes into consciousness for me is almost an abstract image, but Sri Ramana Maharshi, the great sage from Arunachala, who Guruji used to have me read from a lot, he had a mountain as a spiritual teacher, rather. And a mountain as a spiritual teacher is an interesting thing. But what it highlights for me is, of all the spiritual teachers, he had to have something, even a mountain. And this is somebody who was on the edge of tipping, as Guruji said, the moment he came into this life. So he was already tipping into enlightenment, or I think his enlightenment happened at some young age. He had the deathless experience. We'll have to watch his program to find out the exact age, somewhere between 10 and 14 perhaps. And he had this maybe a little earlier, but he had the experience of the deathless reality. But then he needed some kind of spiritual teacher. So the spiritual teacher that he found was this mountain came into his head called Arunachala, and this mountain became his guru, and he never left the mountain. I'm not a disciple of Sri Ramana Maharshi. I am a disciple of Sri Brahmananda Saraswati, but we read from him so often, I consider him as though he is as dear to my heart as anything. And somehow it pops into my mind to begin with, because of all the times that I would read his questions and answers to Guruji in the afternoons. And it's so funny because you would think he didn't have a spiritual teacher, but he did. He had to have something, and he had that mountain. There's a couple of reasons why, and I'm glad you asked the question because I think it's a beautiful one. One reason is that we are all learning about staying connected with the total and not being connected or staying focused on what is partial. The mind is always focused on the partial, and that's part of its beauty. It can separate this and then put that together with that, and that is part of its beauty. And the whole manifest universe can be put together and broken apart. But when you're talking about the unmanifest, it requires different tools to be engaged or employed. Sri Ramana, that energy that was flowing through him through the process of Shakti, and that experience of the profound point or consciousness itself known as Shiva, they had a relationship. And in the same way as Shiva and Shakti go together, that is, cosmic energy dances and is connected with the point, and the point is realized through the cosmic dance, if that makes sense. They go together. We could say the inhale, the Shiva, the exhale, the Shakti. So the feminine is the exhale, and the masculine is the inhale. This union that we're talking about, it's not male-female, it's masculine-feminine principles in our language. This union that we're talking about is mimicked in the teacher-student relationship. For some people, their teacher is not manifest, it's an unmanifest, their guru has passed, but they feel such a deep connection and they allow the teachings or the stories to be their guide. That's also quite possible. And also, some have a manifest guru that help them with their evolution, to use your word. But what is the evolution? We must ask ourselves, when you ask me the question, I immediately say, what is evolution and what is teacher? The teacher holds the steady beat. They have to play the role of Shiva in the student's life. We're using Shiva as a representative or a metaphor of cosmic consciousness. And the student has to play out the Shakti, the cosmic dance. Sri Ramana made his way to the city of Arunachala, where that mountain was. Or I think the city was actually not Arunachala, I'm sorry, it's called Tiruvannamalai. And I believe I'm pronouncing it correctly, Tiruvannamalai. And he was looking for this mountain, Arunachala. When he found it, as I said earlier, he never left. And every day he would, according to the stories, circumambulate. I love that word. He would circumambulate the mountain. Tell me, how does that not reflect Shakti? Shakti always circles around Shiva. Another word for Lord Vishnu is the mountain, Achala. Achala means the immovable, the one that does not move. And Guruji used to say, something in us never moves, never changes. I tell the students, the mind wants what's new. That's how the advertisers are selling to us. Oh, well, it's new and improved. And so we go, oh, well, if it's new, I got to try it. And that's fun to play with. I'm not saying don't play with that. But I'm saying in the role of spirituality, we're looking for what is stable. In the experience of spirituality, we're trying to come in contact with that. So that mountain was not movable. And that symbolized Shiva, that symbolized Vishnu, that symbolizes Rama, that symbolizes Brahma in the tradition of the yogis as a metaphor. In the tradition of the yogis as a metaphor, not as a Hindu, as a metaphor. Or the principle of consciousness, that's stable, coming in contact with that. And who has access to that Shiva or that cosmic consciousness? Shakti. So we, in the beginning, we're coming into contact with what is pure energy. And that energy becomes purified the more it stays connected with consciousness. The role of the teacher then is to begin to help the student transform what is fragmented consciousness into the unified field, into the whole, to help them to understand, how do I understand the energy of my life? And the more that energy becomes unified, it starts to become circular, not like this, not distracted, but it becomes circular. And when it is circular, it starts to, it's almost like a vortex or something, you know? It's centralized around the stable point. Coming into contact with that thing in you that is not ever changing, that never changes. And Guruji would ask all the time, something in you when you were taken in this incarnation, when you were born, something was there, then young childhood, then young adulthood, then old age, when that comes for various people. Something has never changed. Things change, but something in you has not. So I like to tease the students and I say, do you ever go up to your friends and say, so what's never changed? We always say to them, what's new? Because we are taught that through the manifest reality, but we want to try to come in contact with that which has never changed. Imagine saying that to your friend. So what's never changed? What's stable and continuous, eternal? It would change the nature of that dialogue. And I believe that's the question the Guru keeps asking. They look to the stories which reflect the change, the new, but they always keep trying to help the student thread back to that which is eternal. At some point, the student begins to do this, and then that is their evolution.